does that feel like? She's always humming really quietly, but she always really is like surrounding and creating music. And I would always know, because we were often on earpieces together, because we would be across a whole stage, but just quietly talking to each other. So when she would sing or hum, and she does it really quietly under her breath, but since we were mic'd, I could hear it. And I have to say, it was one of the most like enchanting. Like I miss it because I was like, oh, I just constantly have Hallie kind of humming something beautiful in my ear, and yeah, give me that for a day. I would also just walk around. I like wouldn't even speak to people. I'd be like, be quiet, I'm singing. Can you imagine?
To all the trolls out there that had something to say about my girl, Hallie. What's up, y'all? It's me, the Black Cinderella. And I know you're scared because Hollywood is making an effort to be more diverse in the people that they show on screen. But let me ask you this. Why can't a mermaid be black? Why is that too unrealistic for you? Because you do know she's friends with a talking crab. And I know you're not the sharpest people, but crabs can't talk. In fact, the entire thing is fiction. And since the beginning of the entertainment industry, the most roles for black women were that of the maid. So it's about damn time we get to play the mermaid. Okay? Get into it. Get into it.
Okay. I tell you right now. Woo! We went to church. We went to church. Oh, man.
Hello, and thank you for joining me here with Conversations with Taz. I know your girl's been gone for a little bit. She needed a little bit of a break. You know, you gotta, self-care, self-help. There's been a lot going on. And baby, we about to get all the way caught up. Okay, we're about to get all the way caught up. You know how I do. So let's do this together. Let's start off with a little bit of a UKBS.
Buckingham Palace has declined a fresh request to return the remains of an Ethiopian prince buried at Windsor Castle in the 19th century. He was the son of one of the country's most prominent rulers, but was orphaned at the age of 7 following the death of his parents. The prince was then captured and shipped to London, along with what became known as the largest haul of artefacts looted by Britain in the country's history.
Because yes, let's steal the history of other people as well as the bodies. And UK, you keep acting as if, you didn't import any racism from the United States. But it's amazing what your little sister, little brother, little nibbling learned from you. Because there are still Black bodies kept at universities, etc., etc. That's a conversation for another day. Yes. Now, speaking of the past, everyone keeps saying there's no one alive that was connected to slavery, was connected to. How would you feel to know that that's not true? Let's take a look.
Hi, Mr. Tyler.
89-year-old Harrison Ruffin Tyler is the grandson of U.S. President John Tyler, who was born in 1790. Yes, you heard that right. Just 3 generations. President Tyler, his son Lyon Tyler, and grandson Harrison span almost the entire history of the United States.
When you tell people that you are the great-grandson and your father is the grandson of the 10th President of the United States, do they find it hard to believe?
I find it hard to believe.
See, I think you all forget people's lifespans. Because there are quite a few presidents that were alive during the lifespan of Harriet Tubman. One of which was Ronald Reagan. See, this is why they even put people like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. into black and white to make it seem like it was so far gone in history, as his daughter is correcting Rafael Cruz on the internet today. And for those of you all that go, well, I don't know any slaves. I didn't know. Y'all remember the original Catwoman? Miss Perfect herself, Miss Eartha Kitt. Did you know the beginnings of her life was of one of a slave? And given that there were plantations that were just shut down not too long ago, and that slavery within the United States still hasn't been abolished or made illegal, just the parameters changed. You know, slaves. But let's move on to the travel advisory that has evidently been extended since the first time we covered it.
If you're Black and visiting Florida or planning to move there anytime soon, watch this. Florida's NAACP wants to issue a travel advisory for Black people after state lawmakers introduced proposals that they say target Black history and other diversity initiatives. A professor at the University of Florida disagreed with the advisory altogether, saying it would do exactly what lawmakers want, which is to keep those who disagree with them out while keeping allies in. And considering that African Americans make up roughly 17% of Florida's population, telling Black people not to visit may send the wrong message. The national
If there were so many allies to be kept in the state of Florida, why was gerrymandering such a big thing before the last gubernatorial election? The gaslighting must stop. The political gaslighting must stop. Because the more you lie, the more tyrannical things become. There was a 19-year-old at 10 p.m. last night that tried to infiltrate the White House to kill the sitting president, to take control. To take control of the government because he felt like, oh, if you off the president or kidnap one of his family members or kidnap Madam VP, that would... This is why we had an insurrection. This is why we had people try to shoot up FBI buildings. Like, GOP, conservatives, ultra MAGA people, you're killing off and imprisoning your base. And you're sitting around wondering why these elections aren't going the way that you think that they're supposed to go. Why these negotiations aren't going the way you think. You've depleted your... You know what? I'm not going to sit here and waste my breath. Let's look at modern day McCarthyism from a McCarthy. I'm not saying it's from the same line, but the namesake, you can't deny it.
We thought Hillary Clinton was unbeatable, right? But we put together a Benghazi special committee, a select committee. What are her numbers today? Her numbers are dropping. Why? Because she's untrustable.
We've been telling you, projection is the royal family of deflection. See, this is why they're saying Trump being held accountable and other people, well, actually, when other people were being held accountable, they didn't even say this, but it's once Trump started being held accountable and they know that their dealings with Trump could lead them into a whole lot of hot water, baby. They know what they've done over the years. but I'm pretty sure y'all still think that I'm reaching. Let's take a little glimpse into the current GOP.
Whenever you hear Republican elected officials say they're going to tackle the gun violence crisis by addressing mental health, consider that the last time the Republican Party had full control in Washington, right after Trump was elected in 2016, when they had Republican control of the House and the Senate and the White House, what was the first thing they did? The first substantive bill they passed through Congress, the very first one, was a bill to make it easier for people who had been declared mentally ill to buy guns. And that was not like an obscure footnote in some larger, more complex bill. It was literally the one and only purpose of their first bill. Make it easier for people who have been adjudicated mentally ill to get access to firearms.
Now, that's not the only part that is the current state of the GOP. Let's really get into it. Coming from AOL.com, key Trump attorney says he's departing legal team as Mar-a-Lago probe intensifies. A key lawyer for former President Donald Trump said Wednesday that he was leaving the legal team, a move that comes as special counsel investigation into the retention of classified documents shows signs of being in its final stages. Timothy Parlatore told the Associated Press that his departure had nothing to do with Trump and was not a reflection on his view of the Justice Department's investigation, which he had long called misguided and overly aggressive. Let me skip through. He turned over his notes. And for this not to fall under client privilege, you were involved in it. What you got to say? You were involved in it. Where your head about to lay? Oh, and coming from newsbreak.com, another key component. Rudy Giuliani told an employee not to talk to the FBI and then asked for her help Googling obstruction of justice, lawsuit says. And keep in mind, all these people have lost attorneys in the past week. Okay. So here are the cliff notes. Rudy Giuliani told an employee not to talk to the FBI and delete her messages with him, according to a lawsuit. Baby, the cloud is forever. Forever, ever, forever, ever, forever, ever. He then asked for her help Googling information about obstruction of justice, the lawsuit said. The FBI ended its investigation into Giuliani in 2022. Rudy Giuliani asked an employee to delete all communications and avoid speaking to the FBI before later asking for her help in Googling information about obstruction of justice, according to a new lawsuit. Rudy, ain't you been an attorney for... The lawsuit filed Monday by Noel Dunphy alleges Giuliani serially sexually assaulted her throughout 2019 and 2020 while she worked for him. First of all, Sister Girl took this job without any payment. She knew what she was doing. She knew what she was doing. Now, am I glad that she has a laptop full of stuff ready to burst this? Yes. But Sister Girl knew what she was doing from the beginning to the end. Okay, she had a plan coming in. Let's not play 4 years old with this. Let us not. She knew what she was doing. Okay, she came through for the big payout. I don't know why she decided to do that with them, knowing that they ain't got the money. They don't ever pay for nothing. But but that's not even as deep or as thick as it gets. Baby, come on. Whew. Put on your good galoshes and let's go mud stomping.
This is amazing. A MAGA Trump supporting Republican was just called out for his hypocrisy live on air. Representative Byron Donalds was asked why in 2019 Donald Trump said that we should not be using the debt ceiling to negotiate, but now Republicans are doing just that. And he had no answer. Take a look at the clip.
You to respond to something former President Trump said about the debt ceiling in 2019. Take a listen.
I can't imagine anybody ever even thinking of using the debt ceiling as a negotiating wedge.
Why don't you agree with him on this?
Well, first of all, he also said the other day on a rival network that he said that when he was president, and when asked why he wasn't saying it now, he said because he's not president. Listen, Donald Trump is always negotiating.
Do you realize how absurd that sounds?
That is not absurd. He's always negotiating, Chuck. Chuck, he's always negotiating. That's what he does. Yeah. That's actually one of the reasons why so many deals for our country worked out to our benefit as compared to his predecessors, both Republican and Democrat, because he's always negotiating.
Do you realize how partisan that sounds?
That's not a partisan statement.
What is good for me is not for thee. Listen, he's basically saying when I'm president, right. There's no negotiating on this. But hey, when somebody else is president, screw him.
Well, no, here's...
Get you to respond to something former President Trump said about the debt ceiling in 2019. Take a listen.
I can't imagine anybody ever even thinking of using the debt ceiling as a negotiating wedge.
Why don't you agree with him on this?
Well, first of all, he also said the other day on a rival network that he said that when he was president, and when asked why he wasn't saying it now, he said because he's not president. Trump is always negotiating.
Do you realize how absurd that sounds?
That is not absurd. He's always negotiating, Chuck. Chuck, he's always negotiating. That's what he does. Yeah. That's actually one of the reasons why so many deals for our country work.
Before I have to say what I say, as always, make sure you check out the links in the description of this video. Byron. You still haven't figured out that they are using you as a mouthpiece because you are easily thrown under the bus. They can say that you were misunderstood, that you're undereducated because of the melanin in your skin. They can write you off because they don't want you on their team. They didn't show you that during the whole let's get McCarthy to be the Speaker of the House because we know we can control him better than we can control you. Whoosh, boy. You still didn't get that? You still didn't get that? So they got you out here looking a plumb fool because they already know Trump is going to make himself look like a fool. But see, you're the black man. So all the white folks are going to focus on your misstepping, and they're going to blame you if Trump doesn't get certain poll numbers. But keep being that good old Sambo. It's gotten you where? It's gotten you next to who? Because your income hasn't increased like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Boebert, or Gates. But y'all on equal standing, right? I guess you just like Mr. Timmy Tim, who announced his presidential candidacy yesterday with, as the white folks are calling it, a near sermon. But the black folks are like, that's some bullshit. That is not what that is. While claiming that racism doesn't exist, Tim let it slip that he was called the N-word. But racism don't exist. But speaking of your massa, he fucked up and he's about to find out yet again.
Guess what, everybody? E. Jean Carroll, the woman that Donald Trump was found liable for sexually abusing, defaming, and now has to pay her $5 million. Yeah, well, she is seeking additional damages against him. After Donald Trump made vile comments about her at a CNN town hall, she is now seeking a very substantial additional amount against him. And look, Donald Trump must be held responsible for his actions, and E. Jean Carroll is making sure of that. It's accountability season, and Donald Trump is top of that list.
And let's not forget that Donald Trump, for his New York City, specifically Manhattan criminal case, he appeared virtually in court today. The trial is set to begin on March 25th of 2024. If you're not familiar with what that date means, that is peak primary season. And because of this date, he cannot schedule anything that could plausibly conflict with the trial. And you know, trials are fickle. You don't really know how many hours you're going to have in court. The DA wanted the trial to start in January. The district attorney wanted the trial to start in January of next year. It was Donald Trump's attorneys that wanted more time and wanted the trial to start in spring. Donald Trump was not happy when he heard that date. Baby, you couldn't read a calendar as your attorneys were fighting. Never mind. Now, keep in mind that March 25th of 2024 is peak primary season. There was also the protection order that was explained to Donald J. Trump. It's not a gag order. He can campaign. He can publicly deny the charges against him, but he cannot share any evidence. And we know Donald J. Trump is no better than a colander, baby. Whatever you put in it is going to sprinkle out. But let's get into the newest case, the newest talking point of racist conservatives and Christian nationalists from around the globe. The Neely case. Let's go.
On the video, you can see a passenger warn Mr. Penny about the danger of putting Mr. Neely in a chokehold. The passenger literally says you could pick up a murder charge for this. So it was entirely foreseeable that if you put your hands on someone's neck for minutes, that person is at risk of losing his life, which is exactly what happened.
This is the Neely family statement. It is clear he is the one who acted with indifference, the now arrested man. By the time he killed Jordan, and now in his first public message, he never attempted to help him at all. In short, his actions on the train and now his words show why he needs to be in prison. And that is Dante Mills and Lennon Edwards, who represent the Neely family, talking about Daniel Penny.
Based on all of the evidence that we've seen, Mr. Penny had no business putting his hands on Mr. Neely's neck. He may have thought that Mr. Neely was acting unruly. He may have been afraid even for himself or others, but that does not give him a legal entitlement to act as judge, jury, and executioner.
This video is being made for educational purposes. Having said that, trigger warning in this one. I came across this article with the headline, Daniel Penny, who choked a homeless man to death on the subway, says, quote, "It's a little bit comical because I love all people." To give y'all the cliff notes of the article, Daniel Penny did an interview with the New York Post, and he basically said it was comical that he's being accused of racism because he loves all people. These are Penny's first public comments since the incident, and he told the Post that he is not a vigilante but a, quote, normal guy who always does, quote, what I think is right. Daniel Penny said this has nothing to do with race. I judge a person based on their character. I'm not a white supremacist. And hey, listen, right? I pride myself on being fair-minded. That very well could be true. I have no idea if Daniel Penny has any ties to any groups like that. I haven't seen any reports that he does. The police haven't found anything. He very well might not. But whether he is or is not a white supremacist, it doesn't excuse what he did. Witnesses said that Neely was yelling about being hungry and desperate and behaving erratically on the subway before Penny placed him in a chokehold for several minutes. While witnesses said Neely's behavior was unnerving, there has yet to be any evidence that he assaulted any passengers. To give y'all Daniel Penny's full quote when he was asked about being accused of being a racist, he said, "I mean, it's a little bit comical. Everybody who's ever met me can tell you I love all people, I love all cultures. You can tell by my past and all my travels and adventures around the world. I was actually planning a road trip through Africa before this happened." Oh no. I don't have a problem with black people. I was planning a trip to Africa just recently. Would a racist go down to Africa? I think not. I am deeply saddened by the loss of life, Penny told the Post. It's tragic what happened to him. Hopefully we can change the system that so desperately failed us. The system may have failed Jordan Neely, but Daniel, you killed him. While your willingness to plan a trip to Africa is greatly appreciated. It doesn't change what you did. The Republican Party might have your back, but what you did to Jordan Neely, I don't even think the Republican Party can save you from. You are a Marine who held a man in a chokehold for so long that he lost his life, and you knew it would happen. Maybe your adrenaline was going 1,000 miles an hour, and so you genuinely didn't even realize how long you were holding it. But at the end of the day, that does not matter. You took Jordan Neely's life when the only crime he had committed that day, if anything, was causing a disturbance. Daniel Penny will get found guilty for this. I guess the question is more so, when will it happen and how long will his sentence be?
So much to unpack. So much to unpack here. Let's start with Neely. You're a Marine. I don't know how far you've gotten to the Marine Corps given your age. I don't know when you joined, not my business. But I do know when you were taught that maneuver, you were taught how long to hold it. You were also taught how to be able to calculate how long you were holding someone in it. It's an in-depth training. And the fact that you felt endangered by a Black man who was asking for food and water and showing his despair and saying, I don't care if I go to jail, because he knows that at least in jail, he's fed, he's giving fluids, he has shelter. Not only did you hold him down, you allowed other people to hold him down. And when other people told you that you might want to let up, this is going to get deadly, you didn't. See, this goes into the same thing that we melanated people experience online and offline. When we are explicitly told about their murderous fantasies about us. See, he thought he was going to be the next hero because of Kyle Rittenhouse. But see, with Kyle Rittenhouse, they tried to excuse it because the people he killed were white. That was their whole excuse. And the fact that they're raising money for somebody who was able to, without a GoFundMe, hire a student attorney and make bail and walk out. Between him and his parents, it was no sweat off their back. And the fact that he laughed about being called a white supremacist, he's a white supremacist. See, white supremacy does not mean you have to be associated with a group. See, white supremacy is the most individualistic thing within the United States culture. See, nobody puts white supremacy under a monolith. This is why I have people right now over on TikTok on my videos claiming that certain people couldn't be white supremacists because they're not white. What? This is why I say, once again, check the links in the description of this video. Get yourself educated. See, they're going to continue to recruit Black, brown, indigenous, y'all know the bodies to do their work because they can push forth the narrative that, see, this is why these people don't belong in our country. Yet they can't survive without us in any country. Now we're going to take a pause for the cause. This video is not an advertisement for any of my products, any of my merch, but it is for Black-owned business. So take heed. And if you have the extra cash, make sure you support. Let's run it.
Good afternoon. Sometimes we have to swallow our pride and ask the questions that we don't want to ask. Now, my question today is, will you help me? I definitely need it. Sales have been down and clientele has just not been showing up. People set appointments and sometimes they just can't make it, and that's okay because life is life and things happen. And things have definitely been happening here. Actually, not really. I'm currently sitting inside of my salon waiting for a client who is 16 minutes late, and I'm pretty sure she just stood me up. My heart is a little broken about that because I was looking forward to having the money to pay my booth rent, but that's okay. Life is life. If you can't donate to the Cash App or buy anything off of my Etsy, could you share this with your friends? Thanks.
This morning it was announced that the European Union has fined Meta a record $1.3 billion for violating EU privacy laws by transferring the personal data of Facebook users to the United States. While this is the largest fine ever levied like this by the EU, what makes it even more interesting is that during all of this, Meta has also been lobbying the US government to ban TikTok, insinuating that ByteDance is doing what Meta has been shown to already be doing repeatedly. And this isn't even the first time Zuckerberg's company has agreed to pay fines for this kind of thing. Last December, Meta agreed to pay $725 million in connection to the Cambridge Analytica scandal. And while Meta didn't admit to any wrongdoing, it did say that it's revamped its approach to privacy over the years, though apparently not. This morning's announcement is just another example of how US lawmakers are actually more interested in villainizing TikTok, the platform that lets people communicate and spread information in ways never before seen, while those same publicly elected lawmakers protect Meta, because even though they have actually been shown to do what TikTok is only accused of, politicians can directly benefit from Facebook's practices. Remember how many political ads you saw on Facebook and how targeted it all was? How many of those ads have you seen on TikTok? And that's what our leaders seem so scared of, the fact that they cannot control what you see or pay to get themselves in front of you. People like me can't reach the masses on Meta platforms without paying the fees. And that's by design, so only the chosen few who can afford to pay can decide what the public actually gets to see and hear.
Because it doesn't matter how many CGVs you get. There's always somebody who sees your video first that's going to save it and download it or screenshot it and re-upload it because they know they have the complexion for protection. So the message still gets out there. We get to communicate globally with one another. So we're not stuck in the 80s and 90s of people telling us that certain countries are just so backwoods and they just need the U.S. help because the United States, as a teenager, as a country, is gonna go and say. They are afraid of the movements that have been enacted on TikTok. They are afraid of the advocacy that has been promoted and upheld on TikTok. That's why they're claiming that TikTok is such a risk. And they're not talking to people who actually use TikTok. They're talking to the older generation that, as I keep telling you, go out and vote for everything. This is why I tell you to go out and vote for everything just like they do. And if you think I'm joking, who do these people love the most outside of the military? Oh, the cops. Let's look at what the cops know.
What's the difference between arrest and detain?
I don't know.
Okay. So even though you don't know the difference between detain and arrest, your testimony here today is that you detained her but did not arrest her?
Yes.
Is there any training required to become a lieutenant in Cook County? So yes or no?
Yes.
But let's not stop there, because it goes up the chain of the command. All the way up the chain of command.
So 5 GOP leaders in Ohio House was charged with bribery. 1 committed suicide. The other 2 took plea deals. And the other 3 have been found guilty of taking more than $60 million in bribes. Unbelievable.
Weeks of trial and dozens of witnesses all led up to today. The man, as you mentioned, who used to lead the Ohio House in the State House behind me, and his co-defendant, Matt Borges, are both guilty of racketeering conspiracy. And here's what Householder had to say as he was leaving court today.
Yeah, I remain committed to the people of Ohio. I've always been committed to the people of Ohio. And I think that the justice system is what it is. And there's a process. This is one step to the process. And we're going to utilize every process we can in the judicial system until we get it right.
Now, you may remember this is all tied to that House Bill 6 bribery scheme. Prosecutors say he orchestrated that scheme with money paid by First Energy through dark money groups. That money helped to elect him Speaker, pass the House 6 bailout bill, and then fight a referendum to overturn it. Well, tonight, both the current U.S. attorney and the former U.S. attorney who oversaw the indictment are declaring victory.
And let me make clear, this is a win, a victory for Ohioans. This is a victory for Ohioans. You cannot sell the public trust. You cannot sell the public trust. It is not for sale. And you cannot conspire with others to sell the public trust.
They found them both guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by unanimous verdict.
Do you expect an appeal coming?
I've never had a case in my life they tried where there wasn't an appeal. So there will be an appeal, yes.
Now, again, a reminder, Matt Borges also was found guilty in this case. Now, 2 other defendants took plea deals and testified against both Householder and Borges. A 5th defendant died by suicide.
Now, after hearing all that, someone's going to jump into my comment section and go, now do one on the Biden crime family organization. You know, the one that they found no evidence of anything on. Yeah.
So you had co-defendants break away and testify against you. Another co-defendant just offed himself to avoid accountability. And isn't it amazing that when these conservatives, these racist conservatives, do everything in their power to avoid accountability, and when I say everything in their power, they off themselves, nobody ever calls them selfish. But anybody else that's actually tormented and their families and their friends want them to hold on to life for selfish reasons, they're called selfish. Interesting. Interesting. But let's go on to DeSantis before we talk about the Citibank damsel.
This is amazing. Jen Psaki, President Biden's former press secretary, just tore apart Ron DeSantis' campaign message for the 2024 presidential election. I mean, this is one of the best takedowns I've ever seen. Take a look at the clip.
But what there is very little doubt about is where he stands on policy issues right now. Look no further than the last chapter of his book. He wrote it all there. Make America Florida. That's it. That's the sales pitch for the DeSantis 2024 campaign. So let's just be super clear about what making America Florida would actually look like. Take gun violence. DeSantis signed a law last month that allows people in his state to carry concealed weapons without any permit requirements. So by making America Florida, no one in the country would need a permit to carry a gun in public. What about abortion access? By making America Florida, abortion would be illegal after 6 weeks of pregnancy. Before many women even know they're pregnant, by the way. Curious about LGBTQ rights still at this point? Well, making America Florida would mean banning the teaching of gender and sexual identity for all public school students, even high schoolers everywhere. It would mean prohibiting funds for gender-affirming care. It would mean the government getting temporary custody of children if their parents provide them with treatments like puberty blockers or hormone replacement therapy because they choose to as parents. How about funding for diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in public universities? Sounds good, right? Not if America turns into Florida. There's not going to be any of that anymore. But at least Florida is super pro-business, right? Maybe investment in American jobs is what DeSantis would bring to the table. Mickey would disagree. After DeSantis picked a fight that started with his discriminatory Don't Say Gay bill, Disney announced this week it's scrapping plans for $1 billion Florida campus, which means 2,000 workers who were going to come to Florida are no longer relocating to Florida. So that, in a nutshell, is the DeSantis plan for America. Make it just like Florida. You can decide out there if you like that or not. The fact is we don't know how this Republican primary will play out, and the general election is still 18 months away.
Now, let us not forget that Ron DeSantis has decided to announce his presidential candidacy tomorrow on Twitter Spaces. And if you're not familiar with that platform, it's audio only, no video, no pictures, no nothing. And if you're not a part of the panel, nobody hears your voice. You can't ask any questions. Your questions won't be answered. And he's going to sit down with Elon Musk, the other dysfunctional human being of the planet. And even though he's sitting down with Elon Musk with a moderator, I don't know why two-person conversation needs a moderator, that is supposed to be immediately followed with the first official campaign video. But Elon Musk has said, I had to bring out the handy dandy clipboard, that he's not promising any endorsements on Wednesday. Now, this is supposed to take place at 6 p.m. So, you know, your girl will be there to grab as many screenshots as she can to bring you all the goody good tomorrow. Well, we'll see. Now, let's get into the Oregon GOP before we get into the POS NYC.
On Thursday, the Oregon Senate faced a setback as 6 Republican senators failed to reach quorum, disqualifying them from re-election under Article 4, Section 15 of the state constitution. Senators Lynn Findley, Bill Honsel, Tim Knopp, Art Robinson, Kim Thatcher, and Suzanne Weber accumulated 10 unexcused absences, triggering the Measure 113 provision that was approved by 68% of voters in November. Only 3 Republican senators will now be eligible for re-election unless the rule is overturned through a legal challenge. This absence of senators has led to a legislative standstill, blocking progress in the state legislature. Senate President Rob Wagner expressed disappointment and frustration, emphasizing the disrespect shown to democracy by the senators' actions. Republicans labeled the walkout a peaceful protest against partisan bills and emphasized their focus on issues like homelessness, affordable housing, public safety, job creation, and education. However, Democrats called for an end to the walkout, highlighting the need to pass a budget and address pressing concerns. Efforts to negotiate with Republicans have not yielded progress, and no further conversations are scheduled at this time.
GOP. This is your own making. You all have been such sore losers and such proponents of participation trophies, meaning that you should get the job. And all the lies that your sycophants say online and offline, that you figured you didn't have to abide by the rules and you would just be able to skate through. But see, here's a here's a funny little thing that happens when you push the rules on other people. You know, the rule holders make sure everybody abides by the rules. Now, before we go into this next story, once again, make sure you check out the links in the description of this video because it will give you further context. And make sure you share this podcast. All right. Let's get into it.
To the New York Post. And the number on the receipt matches up to the number on the bike.
It's funny how loud and wrong you can be. Like, if you look at the number right there, it shows she never paid for the bike. Because that number says $0.00 when clearly it's $4.49 to unlock the bike. And that's not even including, like, taxes. So $0, $4.49. That's what it's supposed to be. She never paid for the bike. She just never did. She showed a receipt of her trying to pay for the bike when it was already taken. But for you to get on Beyonce's internet and talk about 3 black men surrounded her and tried to steal her bike, that's slander. That's very much slander. And you got like 5 black dudes that can sue you for it. So good luck with that.
All right. So because everyone wants to be so focused on receipts, right? People are focusing not just on the receipts that her attorney produced, but they're also demanding to know, well, what about the boys' receipts? What about the boys' receipts? All right, so let's do this right here. If you want to know where the boys' receipt is, the boys' receipt is the entire video. You know why? Because the bike is active through the entire video. You can tell that because the light on the front of the bike is on. The bike is active on his account. When her call, first of all, the boy tried to tell everybody, he was showing his phone to everyone. I rented the bike. It's on my account, right? When her colleague walks up and first tells the boy, reset the bike and give it to her, that would mean that it was on the boy's account. And the gentleman was asking him to reset the bike and then let her rent the bike once it was reset, right? So that would mean the bike was rented on the boy's account. That's the boy's receipt, okay? Next. The gentleman who walked up then told her, well, hey, why don't you just take one of these bikes here? And she was, oh, okay, well, I guess I can. And she went, whatever that was, she mumbled when she immediately stopped with the fake crying. And then she went over and rented a different bike. Citi Bike won't let you rent 2 bikes at once. So if she had paid for that bike and it was on her account, she would have had to have that bike returned first before she could rent the other bike. And based on the receipts that her lawyer gave us, we know that didn't happen either, right? Finally, looking at the receipts that her lawyer provided, you know what should be the most glaring and noticeable thing to everyone? The $0 charge. Everyone is insisting she already paid for the bike. She already paid for the bike. $0 means she didn't pay shit. I want you guys to please think critically. Stop just being fed information without thinking for yourselves. Please. This is a kindergartner probably would grasp this quicker. Okay. She didn't pay for anything, you guys. The receipt, based on the receipt her lawyer sent, she didn't pay for anything. She wasn't charged. It was a $0 charge. One last note. The person who originally posted the video that eventually went viral on Twitter has a note on his Twitter account that he tested for himself. He went on Citi Bike app, typed in that particular bike that was in the video's number, and reserved it and was able to create the same zero charge receipt from his couch. Have a good day.
Y'all really need to figure out why you feel the need. Well, you know what? Now I'm going to tell you why you feel the need to protect white women. You have been indoctrinated into believing that white women are the default damsel in distress. And for white women, you defend other white women because you're afraid that the next video that goes viral is going to be you. And white men protect white women because they need somebody to protect them. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. When you see certain videos go viral, go back to the person's profile and see what else they have up. Because that gentleman trying to, protect this white woman, Sarah, that's her name, Sarah. His whole profile is nothing but anti-non-white. So it's on brand for him. It's on brand for him to do that. He knows what's going to be viral, and especially when it comes to Black people, because it doesn't matter what you look like. If you come out and say Black people ain't shit, your shit gonna go viral. And if you monetize your account, you gonna make some coin. And if your account isn't able to be monetized at that time, that will take you to the amount of followers that you can monetize your account. This is why I keep telling y'all, stop falling into these traps. So when y'all keep asking me, Taz, why didn't you speak it? Taz, why didn't you speak on it? Taz, why didn't you check this per? Taz, did you see this? Yeah, I saw it. They're rage farming. I'm not dealing with another white bitch putting box braids and dreads in her head. Not locks, but dreads in her head. Or another white motherfucker saying the N-word all over the internet on purpose. There's one chick on TikTok that everybody is so verklempt on because she's sitting there just bouncing around on her knees saying the N-word, talking about she got body. She knows what she's doing. She knows that y'all are going to drive traffic to her page. Stop. They have nothing without us, and we keep giving them everything. And my thing is, if you learn anything from this podcast, share the podcast, because we need the truth to get out there so people can stop halting our progress forward to equity. See, a lot of y'all think it's a joke. A lot of y'all think that it's a game. But how much of a joke or a game is it when you're the one sleeping in your bed and you never wake up until you see the ancestors? When is it going to be real for you when you lose a family member or a close friend or a neighbor? But let's close the night out on this.
The woman actually produced a fake receipt. You can see it in the screen, a fake receipt from the hotel. So the news reporters went to the hotel. Hotel has no record of veterans ever even staying at the hotel, no matter the fact that receipt wasn't from their hotel. It even had different fonts and different numbers. And then she started telling lies about how she had a credit card on file with another hotel where they could run her credit card. The hotel denied ever doing that. They said it's against their policy to save hotels. No one could find these veterans. So she actually produced a couple of veterans to be interviewed by this assemblyman, Mr. Mayor, and then a couple of news reporters. Well, then the whole thing fell apart. Just this morning, it came out, thanks to the Mid-Hudson News, the veterans were homeless veterans in an actual shelter who were recruited and paid to lie and say that they had been kicked out of this hotel. The entire story is a fabrication. There's not an actual ounce of truth. None of it's real. And I have to say this.
First of all, the fact that any of y'all bought that from the beginning makes me wonder about your intellectual aptitude. We know that most people in this country don't give a fuck about veterans. They love to use vets as a talking point, as weaponry against marginalized communities. They love to use vets to perpetuate their hate, their homophobia, their racism, anything that's problematic. Do you really think that these people put them up in hotels when we are having a debt ceiling conversation, because the most vulnerable, including vets that are being left homeless and have been left homeless since the Korean War, if we want to be real about it. Did y'all really think that they was putting them up in hotels? See, they love Reagan and they love Trump for two reasons. They don't give a fuck about anybody who's not rich, white, and pretty to look at. But anywho, thank you all for joining me tonight. Tomorrow will be quite a bit lighter with our resident Ginger, because we're going to talk about new movies that are coming out, different things in sports. We're going to keep it light tomorrow. And as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Like I said, if you're here, why aren't your friends here with you, watching along with you? Don't be performative as a viewer. Till tomorrow.